This conference
Afternoon,
will
thank
now
you.
be recorded.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So thank you everyone for coming. It's a beautiful day. Um, so, so this month we have two people from the town departments who are going to come and talk to us. John's not here yet, and Ed is here. Ed and I were part of a Zoom conference. The county obtained some grant money and hired an engineering firm. The engineering firm went through with you. Were you there for all that stuff? So they went through all of the, sort of the inventory and the assets of the various water facilities that we have in town. And they produced, it's temporary. Eventually the engineers will come in front of the full board and talk to them about what their findings are in the public, but I figured I'd give the board a heads up to talk about this. Now what these are, it's a risk assessment workshop based on the age and state of our water facilities and capacity. And so our water system was put together, what year?
2002.
2002 it went offline. And so it's been 22 years. And so a number of the important parts are no longer available. They can't necessarily be repaired or replaced that easily. So what these engineers had done for the town is gone through these things, identified which are obsolete, which are not, and things that need to be replaced. And then they did a risk assessment. So they have this thing called the probability that it will fail, and then the consequences, and what kind of consequences if this particular piece of inventory would fail, what would happen to our system. So this is more of a planning process with Ed. So Ed, I know that you have been careful with making sure that we reserve a certain amount of money each year for those kinds of eventualities.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you think is going to happen with our water facility? What priorities would you like to see us focus on?
A lot of it is we feasibly don't have the money to just replace things because they tell us it's old. Everything up there that you look to replace it is very expensive to replace. And it's not just the opponents. You also have to hire the controls people to come in and program everything up and get it to match the SCADA system we're on. So there's an extra cost besides just parts themselves.
Okay.
So the biggest thing we should focus on getting replaced, because it's the hardest thing to replace and integrate into it, would be the turbidimeters there.
Mm-hmm.
You do have a better idea of what I'm talking about when I say these things. The old Hawk 1720Ds that we have, the Aquatrend sensor that it connects to read to the SCADA, even the Aquatrend sensor itself doesn't work anymore. So if one goes down, we can't just like put a new one in. You have to replace all four and the sensor system, and then get the sensor system to talk to the SCADA system. The other stuff is pretty much just like the chlorine analyzer goes, the new CL17s, it's 3 wires. You take the old one off, put the new one on. But I would say that out of everything, the turbidimeters would be.
And those are still original?
Yes. Everything up there is original from 2002.
So one of the options for the town, well, the options such as they are is if we are going to bond in any case, because we would never have enough money to fix these things. And so we could help pay for that through some sort of a water charge assessment or something along those lines. We could look for grants. Now, the way grants have been working is they don't just give you the grant money anymore. They ask you to actually pay the money first, and then they'll reimburse you with any kind of a grant. There are there are state grant programs right now. They come and go. There is a water resource state grant funding program right now, but we haven't had like a failure. So to me, I'm like, we could try to get an application in for along those lines. But what I think that for the board to look at is, sort of plan for, sort of taking what best approach that it would see fit on how to address something that expensive. So Ed could give us an estimate, roughly. Assume for a moment it dies next week.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I have been out of it for 19 years, but I mean, those systems, the turbidimeters that you're talking about, we're not talking about $50,000 a piece.
No,
I mean, yes, there's some SCADA work that has to be done in the sensors, but we're probably talking, what, 7,500 a piece maybe with SCADA work?
without the SCADA work, just the turbidity units themselves are $4,000 each now.
So probably
And
70.
then you've got to get the whole
Right.
sensor array.
Okay.
And then, again, general controls is the large cost. The control people themselves will be just as much as the parts. So you're talking roughly $25,000, $30,000 for that.
Okay. So what about the other things that are on the list? That is your particular priority, but these guys had identified a slew of things that they consider to be obsolete and would like to be replaced by now.
Well, they pretty much went through the entire plant and said that everything we had was old and needed to be replaced.
Okay.
I mean, in a perfect world where they're handing out free money, that would be great, but that's not the case.
Okay.
I mean, there's only the nice thing about our water plant, and Ed can touch on this a little bit more, is there's not a lot of moving parts.
No.
It's an air compressor and a bunch of sensors and the
That's-
SCADA system. Other than that, there's not a lot of things that really can fail as long as the air compressor is going and our SCADA system working. Ed can manually override most of things in an emergency.
Well, that was most of the stuff that they put down was obsolete, needed to be replaced, was all the sensor stuff.
Right.
Like they had the pressure transducer in the tank that tells the tank height, they had that as being obsolete, needed to be replaced. I mean, that's something that you let that go until it dies, and then you replace it. You don't just replace it because, oh, it's 5 years old, but it still works perfect.
So is it possible for us to budget for these expenses?
We have been doing that. Because we're in a municipality, we can't be for profit, but when we have surplus left at the end of the year, we allocate it into like a truck fund, an equipment fund. So that way, when something does go belly up, we're not left scrambling. We do have some set aside.
And I believe you have a meter maintenance
Meter
fund.
Yep, distribution maintenance fund.
And what's going to happen with the meters? What would you anticipate? You have the fund set up.
Well, meters have a life expectancy. They're only accurate up to so many so many gallons.
Mhm.
And then because they fall under the weights and measures rule, after they go over that, we have to replace them because we use them for billing purposes.
So do we have all of our meters are soon past their usefulness date or?
No, not really, because the majority of those we did in 2008.
Okay.
When we got the grant and everything. There were some that were before that, but even then, if they're under, for a household meter, it's like 2 million gallons. So if it's under 2 million gallons, they still consider it to be accurate by standards.
If one of the, whatever you and Darren were talking about were to fail like next week, how fast would it take to replace it and would we have the funds to do it?
It would depend on what it was that fails.
No, but what you guys were.
Turbidimeters.
Yeah,
Turbidimeter, yeah, we could get one. You can order them from Blue Book. They can be here within like 3 days, and then it's scheduling with general controls to have them come out and put it in. I mean, they can do an emergency repair, but that,
Does it affect the system as a whole?
we can still run it. We just have to be up there to monitor it manually a lot more, and it takes out the automation. So instead of just having that record the sample, somebody has to be up there to record it and monitor it to keep the department health compliance.
I was like, can you tell them, I mean, I know Ed, but like what the turbidimeter actually is measuring and how we have to report that every month for the Department of Health?
The turbidimeter measures the clarity of water, how clean and how clear it is. And we have to be under a certain amount to keep the department of health happy. And the results have to be monitored and recorded every 4 hours. So 4 a.m., 8 a.m., noon, 4 p.m., 8 PM and midnight, you have to monitor those results while the plant's running.
And
It
that's
keeps a
gotta,
log electronically.
That's what our SCADA system does. The SCADA system is what allows us to run the place without someone physically being there constantly. Kind of like a babysitting overseer.
and those results have to be reported to Department of Health every month. And we can actually get penalized, like, for some reason, if Ed wasn't doing his job, which he always does, but we had a huge runoff and the water got really dirty. If we go over a certain NTU, then we can actually get fined and penalized for that.
That's the other thing the SCADA system does is we can set data points. So if the turbidity exceeds a certain limit that you program into it, it'll actually call you out so you can go up and adjust stuff before it puts us into violation.
The cost is, I'm new to this, the money in the water fund is from people utilizing the water. Is that correct? They pay the fee
Yes,
that puts it in the budget. It's
Partially.
not is it for every townsperson? Is every townsperson?
Everybody in the water district pays an
Everybody in the
ad
water
valorem,
Okay.
and then everybody that uses water pays rent.
Okay, and so if we were to take out money to fund this balance of new purchases, would that come from the town as a whole or only from people utilizing the water?
only from people in the water district.
Okay,
Somebody outside the water district wouldn't contribute to it because they don't get anything from it.
okay, thank you.
Roughly what percentage of the town's population is in the water district? Is it like half?
We have roughly 648 connections.
Most of it. Probably
That's in district.
85%, Ed?
Yeah, easily.
Okay.
So when these gentlemen show up and want to talk to us about how grave the situation may be, right? Are we just going to tell them, thank you for coming?
Unless they have like some kind of funding paper, which will let us upgrade all those things that they have. I don't see a feasible way to cover the 3 pages of items that they say we need to replace. There's just, we can't afford that cost.
Well, I mean, but would it be important if we could afford it to get those things replaced?
But a lot of the things they have on there that they say that are obsolete, need to be replaced, it's electronic components. Like you get a household computer, 3 years down the road it's obsolete. It's things like that.
Okay. So it's not that expensive.
Ultimately, in a perfect world, yeah, it'd be nice, but they're basically trying to bring it up to today's standards.
Yeah.
Just for example, the highway garage, when it was 40 years old, yeah, it still worked, but needed a lot of upgrades. Like I said, the meats and bones of our water plant don't need to be upgraded. It's all the little tiny components that, could fail, but most of them are not going to be like, we're not going to be able to produce water anymore.
The town isn't gonna run out of water because something goes down.
It'll just have to be done physically.
Until the part gets replaced.
How much is in the fund that you have set aside?
Currently, we have a little over $40,000 set aside.
That's
Something goes
great.
sideways.
That should cover it in an emergency, possibly.
Unless he had some other use for that, why he was saving it to begin with. Is that right?
It's my Christmas bonus.
Apart from the family vacation, did you have other things in mind for that? Did you have other things in mind for that, Mark?
No, because once we pre-allocate something,
Yeah.
that's all we're allowed to use it for.
Okay,
If we set it aside for an equipment fund, that's all we can use it for is an equipment fund.
okay.
If we set it aside as a truck fund, that's the only thing you use it for is purchase another truck.
Thank you.
There was one component that you said, basically, we'll use it until it gives out. I'm getting the sense that that's probably the way to go with all of these electronic components.
The majority of them, yes. They still work. We're still in compliance with EPA and Department of Health standards. It's just that they don't,
They're not new.
yeah, they're electronics and they're 20 years old. You know, nothing is, they're a few models back obsolete, but they still function.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do we use a lot more water now than we did in 2002?
No, not really. We have a couple campgrounds that are closed down, so that's
Yeah.
probably the big
And
factor to
swimming
that.
pools out.
But even then, I mean, it hasn't been like a 50% increase or anything. Residential, really, it's a small load on the system.
Mhm.
So why we got you here, Ed, and I don't mean to take over, if we can circle back to this.
Go ahead.
Can you just, I had touched base with you on some of our fees as far as tap fees, and that's a discussion for building permits. So while you're here, we might as well discuss that. And we had the discussion that, we were maybe breaking even, but no more than that, especially if we figure in, labor and things like that.
Yeah, we don't
Right.
include any kind of time in those fees. That's strictly parts.
Right. So can we come up with a recommendation from you as far as when we do water taps and things like that, that not only are parts and materials, but include something for your labor, because it is part of your time. And if we're doing that for somebody, we should be getting reimbursed for that time, because that's pulling you away from your other duties. So if you can do that for us, and then along those same lines, do you have any feeling or recommendation that the, $90 right now is still fair? Or how is those fees compared to, obviously everything's went up 30% in the past 3 years. So
More than that, our chemical cost from last year to now has gone up 98%. We're paying almost double what we were.
so it's probably something that we should look at too.
It should. I mean, if you look at the other communities around us, most of them charge quarterly, what we do biannually.
Mhm.
Actually, most of them charge more quarterly than what we do biannually.
So can you put that recommendation, what you feel would be appropriate to make sure that we're staying in the green and also staying up on maintenance items, both with tap fees and construction fees that way and with water rents?
Yeah, put together something for it.
Thank
And then we'll get that updated.
Thank you.
For my own curiosity, how old is the reservoir itself?
I think that was built around the same time they built the castle. I'm pretty sure that was like one of those Depression era work projects they just did.
And White Base Mountain, is that a factor in this whole conversation? Like, when we-
They are their own
Okay.
separate water district. Like anything that occurs in District 1 doesn't, like if we pay for an upgrade in District 1, it doesn't affect anything in District 2. They're their own separate water district.
White Base is District 1? Or
District 2.
White Base District 2.
Like if anything goes wrong in District 2, funds don't come from District 1 to cover it. They cover the cost for operations in District 2.
Whiteface.
Yes,
And their water is also coming from the reservoir?
yes.
How would it work as far as if a component fails there, would they contribute to that replacement cost, or it's
They
all?
cover the entire replacement cost in District 2.
Right, but at the reservoir itself,
No.
that's on the town.
Mhm.
Yep.
Anything further for Ed? Thank you very much, Ed.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
I still have to come out to see you.
Yeah, the
I-
invitation's still there.
I know,
If you guys
I
want
don't
to
have the
watch
paper
sunset tour.
anymore. Can I get your number
Yeah.
later, or you can email me or whatever?
I don't have your email.
Oh, okay. All right.
Handy.
Great cards.
Okay, John. Thank you. Beginning of the year, we talked about playground things. I'd like to circle back to that. And also, at the beginning of the year, we were also trying to discuss, as a Parks Department, your equipment needs. As you can tell, I'm we're starting to discuss, what's going to be needed for next year in terms of how we're going to budget and things like that. So can we talk about the playground for a little bit and your equipment needs?
Sure.
So the playground, if I remember right, we were sort of, we had some options for small kids and things like that. And right, the little toddler type
Yeah.
playground equipment. I'm not seeing, we don't have we either have to drop back and try to come up with more of a comprehensive plan for that area, or we should try to piecemeal it together to get replace playground equipment or purchase new as sort of we see fit. As I was saying with Ed, I mean, the grants require a certain amount of planning and timing, and we have to have everything sort of lined up in a row before we approach a grant application. And even with grant applications nowadays, it's often the case that we'd have to pay for it first, and then the town would be reimbursed later. And that's even risky sometimes, whether you would get what you originally expected from the grant, the state. So in any case, so could we talk about like the options we had before? Do you remember what those were?
Well, like Laura and I talked about the really little kid stuff,
Okay,
which there isn't much of. And Darren's looked at everything and gave me the book. And
okay,
so like the really small kid stuff is, I don't know if affordable is the right word, but costs less than like the big stuff. So if the town had like a ballpark figure that we wanted to say is being allocated to new equipment, then I think we could like get a better plan, because if we're just looking at the book like without really
okay.
an idea of what we're looking at, like
It's really expensive, huh?
wicked.
Yeah.
But I think the real little kid stuff is something that could be done quickly and probably around the amount of money you want to spend. But if we wanted to get something like more extravagant, I think that would be like we'd want to set aside X amount of dollars a year, and then it's like a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan. This stuff is just so expensive, really.
The previous board, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought, and I'm pretty sure that we had agreed that that would be an appropriate use of bed tax money.
Yeah.
So like we don't have to worry about pushing that burden onto the taxpayers, which would be, and there's a lot of money in that fund. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars in that fund at this point.
I think the playground equipment that's there, like the big structure, is in fairly good shape.
Yeah.
I think I don't think it's dilapidated. I think it's pretty structurally sound.
The stuff at the beach is fairly good too. You can help with that.
We both did, right?
Yeah.
Back in 2000, maybe 2001.
Is failing or fairly good?
Fairly good. It's good. It's in good.
Yeah.
Everything that we have is in fairly decent
Right.
shape.
I think just adding little features would be beneficial, and probably, like you had said, not super costly, but yeah, I think there's things that could be beneficial. And Tina had been talking for a while about a Gaga pit. I don't know if that's still on the table, but, and I've never played it nor have witnessed it, but it sounds like it's a thing that people would enjoy. Right.
I know the youth committee wanted to put one in.
So that could be,
I've heard about that.
They're like, I think it's like $3,500
okay.
roughly for like composite and nice material that's not just, that doesn't need much maintenance, and it's not gonna, give kids splinters and all that good stuff.
I've heard about it quite a few times at this point. It's something that is desired.
Who's that?
What? Yes, thank you.
I don't know.
It's like an octagon. It's a big octagon. And kids all get in it and trying to kick the ball at each other. And it's kind of like dodgeball in a pit, kind of. And when someone gets hit, they're out, they catch the ball, the other person's
Okay.
out.
Kickball.
They have all
dodgeball,
different
pit.
variations of how they play it, but
You get in the pit with a ladder?
it's only this tall.
So are
I
they.
guess you could.
So, okay, not that deep of a pit.
They're like this tall, they're not, it's not like a pit. It's
Like an above ground pool?
like 30 inches maybe, ish,
Maybe only 12 feet across,
Yeah.
diameter maybe,
probably.
give you an idea of the size.
Do we want to talk about like a preliminary budget so he can have some sort of an iota of what?
Sure, I know, I just think if we have the estimate, then we could just amend the budget, move funds into it, pay for it, authorize the payment.
Right, but he just wants to know what amount of money to look at items for, so.
Well, I understand, I mean, it's either I tell you you've got $5,000, or you come back to us and say it's actually $3,500.
All right, but what John's looking is, all right, is the board willing to spend 20,000? And if I have 20,000 to spend, I'm gonna pick the best bang for my buck to get the $20,000 spent. If we're only willing to spend 3,000, then he knows that he can only get one piece of equipment, or so.
Okay.
Just so
It's
you
like
can give
you
us
want to spend like 3,000 and have like a balance beam that you walk across in like a spinny chair, or spend like 18,000 and have like a little fire truck and like some other features off of it for like real little kids. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's like it's just really expensive, but like I feel like we should spend, you know, something and get something decent than just spend a little here, a little there, and have just a bunch of little things all over, you know what I mean? So like one decent feature would be cool.
So if we give you like a number, you can come back with us which items you could afford in that budget, and then we could make a decision whether we wanted to
Like
do
if
that.
we said like 12 to 15,000, and then I could look, and if something's like 9, great. If something's like 17, I could be like, well, it's a little over, but this is what it is.
Sounds good.
Well, we definitely want the Gaga pit. That's it.
Tina would,
Dire
Tina, I think would,
I
be
swear
elated.
I've heard of it half a dozen times as something
That's
people want.
pretty easy.
It's adult.
and
Yes.
the installation of it, that would
Pretty
also
easy.
have to be, or you guys would do that.
It's just, yeah, it's really
Okay.
not that big a deal.
Okay,
I mean,
Just
all the
some simple-
playground equipment that is there at the time was bought as a 50-50 grant match back when Jeannie was supervisor in 2000, 2001. And we got all that equipment. The town did all the labor on it.
Okay.
So the town crew even installed with what's there now. So if he's talking, you know, $12,000 and $15,000 in a few smaller items, the town crew could definitely install it, because
I have
it's
no
some
doubt.
concrete and stuff like that, but it's not like it's, you know, weeks worth of labor.
And like the big feature that's up there with the curved twisty slide and the regular slide and the stairs going, that's probably $150,000 now.
Really?
No, that's too much. Okay.
I'm just saying.
12 to
put it into
15.
perspective.
Yeah,
Like the thing at the beach is probably.
My mind is blown.
75, yeah, 90, yeah.
Like it's not cheap, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you can go as crazy.
John, there was some sharp spots I remember last year on the beach stairs on the playground. It's just from wear and tear, the rubber
Yeah.
going through, did we?
We did.
Okay, good.
So I think 12 to 15, I'm fine with that. As a
I mean, just
preliminary.
so we have a
Ballpark,
range, because
right.
before it was just like, here, just
Right.
pick out some stuff, and it's like, well, I like this one for 780,000.
highly recommended.
We're moving on to your equipment needs, John, if you want to talk about 780,000.
I don't need anything. Well, I mean,
Okay,
I could
so-
figure something out.
So we talked, thank you, I think 12 to 15 sounds about right, thank you.
Will that get the Gaga pit and the fire truck?
We're working on
Maybe
it.
close.
So the equipment needs, last winter, we were talking about some sort of sanders for the back of the truck and things like that. And then we slowed down from that. Is that what you're anticipating? You have a
Well,
idea of what it is you'd like us to look at for your needs next year?
sort of. We ran salt on the sidewalks last winter, which nobody seemed to have an issue with. It's a very small amount of salt comparatively speaking to what the trucks put down, like daily. And we were always talking about a sander because we'd always sanded the sidewalks by hand. And it's two guys. If you got calling in, you're calling them in for overtime. You're doing it by hand. It's not the ideal way of doing things. If we are okay with just running salt, the spreader for the back of the tractor will work fine, probably even better.
How long is your tractor going to last?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
3 to 5 years.
We just put what, 5,000 into it, right?
I think 3,500.
Okay.
3 to 5 years, we probably want to look at replacing it. That tractor should be on a replacement policy like the big trucks are, because that's one of its primary uses is just cleaning the sidewalks on the state road, and it just gets shelled with salt daily. And we rinse it off and we keep it inside and we clean it. And there's only so much you can do after 5, 7, 10 years. Things just start to go south.
So I don't know if the board is aware too, and I'm sure Louis would not be happy that I'm bringing this up, and John is, the sidewalks are actually part of the highway department's job and budget, especially on the state road. So the parks budget or general fund has always bought the parks tractor because it's used for parks, and the highway has never contributed any of that. And then, our parks department gets paid and stuff out of general fund, but some of that, technically goes back to highway, and the highway is responsible for sidewalks. So, in the future, if we were to buy another tractor, I think it would only be fair to at least buy part of the tractor out of the highway, because, it is used for a lot of the highway work that's supposed to be done through the department. And, John and his crew are good enough to do that. And if the highway crew took it over, regardless of the fact, we'd still have to have a tractor, for them to use. So one way or another, I feel like, at least the highway department should be kicking in something towards that tractor.
I think the last couple of times the town's purchased the tractors, been Parks and Water.
Yes, exactly.
Because I use it to clean our reservoirs out now that we can't get the inmates anymore.
Well, the very first tractor that was ever bought was bought back in like 2001 with
Just
Parks and Water.
Yeah.
And it was when the old New Holland backhoe was traded in way back then.
Mm-hmm.
And the highway got the backhoe, and basically Parks and Water said, you know what, we'll just run it off the highway at the time. And they went in and bought a small tractor to use for that type of stuff, because they just weren't using the backhoe a lot. So the money that we got out of the trade-in, or when we sold it for surplus, went into that original tractor back 23 years ago.
Okay.
The thing is with the tractor is, do you want to run it until it's not worth anything?
Mhm.
Or trade it in like every 3 to 5 years when, the tractor's still worth something to someone like Darren, who would have it for his own, his own business, or like someone who owns a farm, or, do you run it till it's like you bring it to the dealer and the John Deere guy's like, I can't do anything with this, or do you bring it when he's like, I'll give you 15 for it, and like where, I don't know where
Correct me if I'm wrong, John, this was replaced when Randy was here, so maybe 8 years ago?
Yeah, roughly. It's getting tired now. I mean, we just had it completely gone through, so it's in, it's in good shape, but I mean, everything gets tired.
I can't remember, there was this paper that had the spreader. This is, did we already approve this, or is this
That would be for the truck, but if we're okay with salt, the spreader for the back of the tractor that we have is fine. And if we had to replace that, we're talking, $1,000, $10,000.
We talked about that at the January work session.
Okay, I knew it was in the
Yeah,
beginning of the year.
And then I think if I'm right, John also, suggested that we don't take any action on it. It's, it's too late to be us to be buying something like that, so we just tabled it, as it were.
My main equipment concern would be, we have 2 pickups, they each have like 120,000 miles on them.
Mhm.
So they are getting quite tired.
Yep.
Our dump box, we use our dump box constantly. The highway will borrow the truck to use the dump box when like their standards are on the trucks and they don't have a dump truck. And that's beyond its life expectancy, like it's in tough shape. So I just don't want to get into a spot where everything dies at once.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
So
Good.
we did have a equipment fund in general fund for a truck too. Unfortunately, for the past few years, until last year, and I was finally able to get 5,000 transferred into that.
Yep.
It had sat idle for quite a few years. Typically, we replace John's truck less than the highway, but maybe every 7 years, and then that truck got passed down, or 5 to 7 years or something like that. But unfortunately, now we've got, I think, maybe 5,000 in that truck fund, and we're kind of behind the ball because we didn't budget for it like we should have been.
Mhm.
And we're kind of in this situation where when he needs a truck, and probably, you need your guy's trucks probably sooner, but even your truck would, be passed down typically in maybe 3 more years.
Well, right.
So,
The ideal thing in my mind, which may not align with anyone else's mind, but is if we could get a dump box, put it in my truck now, the newer truck, and then in a few years, or a year, or however many years, the next pickup is purchased, then my truck now would become like the work truck, and then the next truck would become my truck. But I just don't see a reason to like get a dump box and put it on one of the old trucks and go through, you know what I mean? But I would certainly rather get, a dump box would be more important than the spreader at this point, or the sander, and if we can use the spreader on the back of the tractor, then we're all good. Anyway.
Okay, so if a dump box is what you're looking for, we can come up with some.
It's probably very, very similar, but I will come up with it. It's probably like almost exactly the same as the sander.
It's the sander? Okay. Yep. All right,
So
so,
if
I'm
it's, I assume then it's like a state law that the sidewalks are a highway department responsibility,
Adjacent to state.
and the parks cover it just because that's how we've always done it? Is that's a question.
yep, because they have staffing and, obviously the
That makes sense.
When there's a big
work,
storm,
right?
Louis doesn't want to pull someone off the road to do sidewalks, and I have equipment and guys to do it, so.
Not a lot of grass to mow, so.
Essentially, that money comes to the town from the state, correct? To the highway department for maintenance of their roads, is that true?
The snow and ice contract.
Yes.
Right?
I don't know if they give us anything
For the
for the
sidewalks?
sidewalks. I have no idea what the contract, Louis would know the contract.
No, I don't think there is, but we are supposed to.
Maintain it.
Mhm.
Maybe Louis would.
Most of the sidewalks are on the state road.
Yeah.
We have Springfield, we have the beach,
86.
and the rest of it's all
state road,
pretty much.
the beach. Yes, Holman Lane?
Coleman ones, correct.
Okay. So one of the, so if you would put together whatever, we have this list from January. We also had the, polyelectric copper spreader.
That's the same thing.
Okay. And, okay, so, but the spreader on the back of the John Deere works, okay?
And yeah, and if we have to replace it, it's much, much, much cheaper.
Okay.
and it works, it's fine, as long, it won't spread dirt. But if we're okay with putting salt down, then it's perfect.
Okay.
And just to, go ahead.
As far as getting you a new truck, which you're going to need in the next couple of years, what's your recommendation as far as how we should budget for that? Because there's nothing left over in your budget annually, and so it's not as though we can put that into an equipment fund. So we should be,
We used to do, like what Ed would do, his truck fund, and the Parks Department would do their truck fund, and everyone had a truck fund. It just
So
got
it was
ignored
always
for a while.
taken out of surplus. So at the end of the year, we have $50,000 unallocated out of general fund. We're allocating 5,000 of that toward the truck or whatever.
Lawnmower, tractor,
You
truck.
resolved for that, or you asked for that at the end of last year, right?
Yep.
Did it happen?
It was approved. I don't know if the transfers actually happened, but it was approved for 3 and 5. And the same for Ed too. And I think you even have that in the minutes. So
I just don't know.
But I don't know whether there was extra money for her to do it or not. She was still
Mhm.
working on it last I knew.
so this is bureaucratic, and today we're going to be talking about increasing our fees. And then we'll also be talking about increasing our planning board fees. That will contribute to our general fund. And hopefully in the future, we'll have some left over in the general fund at the end of the year rather than it being almost empty. And so that would be the way to do it, correct? This is for my own education. If there's whatever, allocate some of that in the general fund to a truck fund for the parks. I'm just trying to make sure I understand or make sure.
So I believe you're partially right. I mean, obviously if we have more revenue, but if we use that revenue to offset taxes, then there's not going to be anything left over. So it's kind of a two-way street. It's either we keep that revenue in and do the tax increase as normal, or if we get $30,000 more in revenue and we use the $30,000 to buy down our budget, then we don't save anything, then there's nothing left.
Got it.
So.
Thank you for that. Next, we're talk about the dog control, the next steps. So as we all know, John was seriously injured in a dog attack while doing his duty as the dog control officer. He has expressed an interest to not continue being the dog control officer. And so what I've done in the meantime is I'm been in discussion with Matt Stanley from Jay, and I think he has a person who would step in and be the dog control officer and would be willing to take on the responsibilities for Wilmington as well. And so we wouldn't have the dog control. It would be a contract expense on our budget next year. We would sign a shared agreement with Jay and have that person become our dog control officer. It'd probably be happening very soon because we continue to get calls. John continues to get calls about lost dogs and things like that. And I'd like to be able to bring it up at the next board meeting, an agreement where we could review and approve an agreement with Jay to get that person on board, get John off of the call list. And then I discussed with John also that I would like, since he has such a long and good experience with helping with events, that going forward, John would undertake sort of responsibility for the events on behalf of the town, and for which he would be compensated in an amount equal to the dog control. And the events, we would try to use the bed tax money along those lines to, for that kind of a budget item. John's been helping with keeping track, giving me sheets of dates that they're working at events descriptions, mileage if they had to go somewhere, who's doing what. And so we'll have a better idea as a board, just how much time our town employees have spent on events. And we could probably in the future look upon it as just another feature of our, well, the service we provide. So it would be something along those lines. And that's kind of what I had discussed with John before and wanted to bring that up now.
No, John, that is just fees associated with those events. Like, for example, we had Two Fly, so it's anything that you did for Two Fly, and it's not things that's like, opening of the bathrooms or things like that, because that's normal items that whether we had a Two Fly or not, that has to be done.
Yes and no. Two Fly specifically, like I said to Favor, the only special thing I did for Two Fly was going to get the firewood and distributing.
What I asked John to do is capture all his time on that. So
Right.
we can look at it and say, okay, the judgment is this.
Right, but we've had the discussions at the past few board meetings where, all of a sudden we have an event and it's going to show up like there was $5,000 worth of work done at this event, but half the work was our normal workload.
Yeah.
That's anyway. So I want to make sure that that's separated out where it's firewood that was actually done for this event and 3,000 of the dollars was done as normal maintenance and opening of the beach, because I don't want to get into the back and forth where, oh, well, we had the Two Fly, we opened the beach, and now the Two Fly cost us $3,500 because it really didn't. It was the cost of getting firewood.
Well, there are two different things going on. One is whether we are going to charge the event sponsor with the actual cost. The other is whether we're going to allocate bed tax money towards the payment, to help budget for those kinds of expenses. I think the sheets that we came up with describe what happens pretty well. We were able to go through it. We can understand the regular hours that you're supposed to be doing your regular job anyway. It'll be clear. And then we can decide how we want to treat the time that they spent working specifically for an event. So this weekend, for example, we have the uphill race and we have the 100K bike race. Well, for the 100K bike race, they're going to be very busy doing the 100K bike race stuff that they've been doing for a long time. So we're keeping track of their mileage, who's doing what. Ashton's got a long trip ahead of him and all that stuff, and it'll be overtime hours, and we're keeping track of that. And for this group, I think we bill them specifically directly for this expense. But we have a lot of events in town where it's kind of a quasi public, quasi town event. And I figure it would help the town out if we could look at it, say, this is what the town's done to participate in this particular event. If it's an event, it's got to be, especially for, community enhancement. It's something for which, bed tax money would be appropriately appropriated for it.
Well, like I said, I'm just afraid that we're going to get into that slope where we're all of a sudden, let's just say this event this weekend, obviously they put up the tent, that's chargeable. When they put out road signs, it's chargeable. When John goes and does garbage runs and all this type of stuff, and, all of his trips that he's doing and phone calls and doing, that's all chargeable. But for example, mowing Preston Field, I don't feel is a chargeable expense because it's done as a maintenance item. Yes, it has to be done for the event, but it would have to be done anyway.
I agree with you. I'm just saying we'll be able to figure that out.
Okay.
Can we do these as two separate discussions and finish the dog control discussion first? Because
we're not having much of a discussion on that part. That we're going to have a heck of a budget meetings, guys. Okay. This is all budgets going forward this year. What we're doing right now is we're just trying to capture the data. I've just suggested that the dog control thing is going to change, and that I would like to see John Tran sort of move into more of the events coordinator manager on behalf of the town. That's it.
Regarding the dog control,
Go ahead.
who is this person? Do they have any special training? And then I have questions for John, like how many calls do you get a week? Are they primarily about lost dogs, dangerous dogs, barking dogs, those types of questions? So my first question is, who is this person and what is their training?
I haven't met him and he doesn't have training yet.
Okay,
Does John have any training?
no, and that's an issue. What is I would assume there would be state or county requirements for that position for some kind of training. Is there not?
John, is there training for that stuff?
I have no idea.
Does Jay currently employ someone as their person?
They have a contract with somebody out of E-Town.
Okay.
They're not that excited. They found somebody who wants to do it.
Great.
They'll probably arrange the training for them. We'll help pay for it.
If there is training, I was never offered it or had it brought up or anything. I just got, do you want to be dog control? No.
Please.
No one else does either. All right, I guess I'll do it.
Sorry.
What is
Yeah,
it?
and then I was dog control. So like when people call me and have all these questions that you're gonna ask me, I don't have an answer. You know, like if there is a certification that you could go get, like I have known some people will call me and ask me questions and I'll be like, I cut grass. You know.
So that's,
What are the calls? You get calls every week as dog control?
Sometimes you would go a week or 10 days without one, and sometimes you'd have 5 or 6 in a week.
Is there anything that is the primary reason people call or?
For a dog they've found somewhere, 9 times out of 10, they're 100 yards from the dog's house. They're just staying at a rental or something. They're used to how something may be, and like wherever they live, the dogs don't just roam free. And they don't really roam free here, but people are more likely to just let their dog out and go run around the backyard, might go into the neighbor's yard for a minute. And if the neighbor's yard's a rental and they see a dog run in their yard, they immediately say, there's a lost dog in my yard. That's the majority of it.
You have a kennel that you would keep the dogs in?
I have a cage, yeah.
Okay. That was inspected by somebody from
Yeah.
Bags and Markets, right?
Yeah.
I think she would have told you about any trainings, if there were trainings.
I don't know.
I'll
If there
call.
are trainings, she had told me.
Special equipment to catch them with, but
We have a catch pole, yeah.
in any case,
What are we then paying for dog control?
well, we budgeted a certain amount for the year.
It's like 40 some $100,
Yeah.
right, John?
And it's
4,100, 4,160, and then the CE is 2,200.
What is it?
That's
Equipment?
That's what goes
Contractual
to
expenses and then
Essex County, or to,
SCPA.
yes.
So we're paying less than $100 a week for dog control.
Yeah.
And are we going to, when we share services, will the cost be similar? Is that?
That's my plan.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at other budget lines for dog control, 5,000 or less. So I'd be happy to, have somebody at the town of Jay. It is a challenge when they're all calling and you don't know what to do with the dog. And the dog is just bit somebody. And it's in the middle of some strange transaction where somebody was picking up a dog they never met. They got bit. They want the dog out of the house. The police are called. The police don't want it. It's, can the dog be safely taken to the dangerous dog shelter at the SCPA, which only has room for one? And if there's an occupant there, what do we do with the dog? It's really quite a challenge. So I'm very happy to, what's that?
Super annoying.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll be happy to go talk to the guys in January soon and, close the deal.
And then you're contracted with them, and then they say, no, we can't take the dog. And it's like,
Yeah.
So what do you want me to do with it?
And
But
we
they
are,
ended up taking it, so all's well that ends well. But
yes, and we had to rely on Anne Marie from North Elba, bailed us out. So,
I didn't realize that most of the calls were about lost dogs. That's interesting, good to know.
Every now and then there's injured dog, dangerous dog.
When you gave us these estimates about the events, your time, you weren't counting like cutting grass and normal parks labor.
We're keeping super meticulous
Right.
notes on everything we do now, and they're all archived, and you'll have a much
It won't be an estimate.
better than I don't think so, but it was a couple of years ago.
I know we've all said this, but we are very sorry about what happened to you.
Thank you for saying that.
Really sorry.
It's not growing back, but it's coming along.
Thank you.
So about very, very quickly, like with going, yes, we would mow for an event. You know, we would mow anyway. But we are also going there to mow, you know, pick an event. We're gonna mow for the event. We're gonna do the grounds. The venue should look nice. I don't know if, like, from a budget standpoint, if including groundskeeping would then let money come from other places to pay it, like would that be community enhancement if you're making the area look good?
Maybe if you're
I
gonna
think
mow for the week, just try to do it the day before. Like if you're gonna do a weekly mowing.
that's right. That's what I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Then that shouldn't be
I
an
just,
issue.
you know, if you included that, I don't know if it then, not that it's,
Right,
not that
you,
the town is subsidizing the event, but if it allows you to pay for it differently is all I'm saying. I have no idea about that.
I think that's like a really good point, because you might have let that grass grow for another couple of weeks, but you want it to look excellent for this event that's coming up. So that's an extra expense for the taxpayers currently.
More than the expense, I think he's stating that you could take the extra tax money, the
That
beautification,
tax, yeah,
yeah, and use that if you could justify it, that that's why it was done the extra time.
is that what you're saying?
But like I'm just saying, I agree with Bill. I agree with Darren. We would have put the dock out for two fly anyway. We would have mowed anyway.
Yeah.
If we would have done it that day, maybe not, but if,
I'm not, yeah, the two fly, I'm not particularly, I knew I was down there, I watched, it was really standard maintenance
Yeah.
and some firewood.
Changing light
So
bulbs.
that one is not,
Other than that,
that's not really one,
everything we would do.
it's not that complicated to tease out.
Right.
Which is which.
That one.
Um,
Is there usually a lot of garbage left over after these events, or are they really good about cleaning up after?
Most are pretty
Okay, thanks.
All right, so, last week, Laura and I met with, lots of people for the beach staffing and news commission time. We have, right now, we've interviewed 5 people, to be part of the lifeguard, staff. We discovered, during the course of those interviews that the beach itself is often very busy and, to some extent understaffed during those peak period of times of busyness. So I found all the applicants pretty good.
Mhm.
Right, and so what we were just thinking about doing is increasing the hours of the beach, staffing it fully with at least 3 lifeguards a day and keeping it open 7 days a week. And the idea would be, to me, a part of the community enhancement, because our beach is a particular attraction for youth commission groups from Keene, other places. We have lots of people who specifically, may not be staying in town. They will be coming by to use it and enjoy it. So we were thinking that we could staff it that much, get it running, and then come up with a schedule so that, everybody's got 2 days off and things like that. And this is sort of a dramatic change from last year, and we require a certain amount of board input and approval for us going in that direction. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay.
The one thing that I would like to see that we did, probably 3 years ago, but then we didn't have staffing, is that I feel is pretty important, is on Thursday night concerts. I'd love to see a lifeguard there till later, because, you'd get there and Dan would be literally closing up and there'd still be 20 kids in the water playing on that night. I'd love to see that that one night open a little later.
I honestly don't think we'll have a staffing issue. We are absolutely unique in all the towns that the county can't find lifeguards. And we were very fortunate to get a number of applications and candidates, and
Qualified,
and the people we interviewed were all,
Yeah.
So
had experience.
super, so far pretty super. So, to me, I think so. I think to us, I mean, Dan, I'm sorry but when we talked to the person you shared the workload with last year, the description of the number of people, when there are two of you on, the number of people in the water, while one person's standing on the platform and the other person's being the backup. It's just too many people in the water for one lifeguard. Would you agree with that?
It was a lot. It was work.
Right. So to me, it seems that if we could have maybe sometimes during the peak, we would have two people standing for the number of people based on the number of people in the water, and one person in the back. Then we still have to talk about the boats, John. I'm sorry I let you go. But we have no idea what is the state of the boats.
There isn't really a state of them at this point. We have, I think, 5 canoes, and the kayaks. I think we have the one double kayak and maybe one other kayak that you should rent. The other ones that have been repaired so many times
Are not seaworthy.
A few of them we've just thrown away because just the holes in the bottom have gotten to the point where.
So your recommendation to just basically get it right out there, should we even continue it, or are they beyond their life expectancy?
The kayaks, I wouldn't. The double kayak is okay, but the rest of them.
But I'm saying the rental program in general. I mean,
I have no idea if it helps offset.
but if we only have 3 usable boats, that's what I'm asking. How many? You're saying maybe 6?
Canoes.
And they're
people
still
don't really
good.
want to take canoes. You know what I mean? They want kayaks.
Dan, do you know the revenue from the rentals last year?
Brennan was actually the renter last year at the beach, so he would have better answers than me.
Brandon, any idea?
It wasn't actually, there were days when there were 3 or 4 canoes out at a time, and the kayaks were on the rack, like a group of people would want to canoe together. And like 4 or 5 people would ask, what's the best way to do it? And I'd say 2 canoes or something like that, and they would just do that, or water bikes. We use those.
Are those still in working
Yeah,
order?
they're fine.
I don't know, I would say we got probably 5, 6, 7 people a day paying to rent boats at any given day.
And what was the rental fee?
It was 15 for 2 hours, 20 for 3 hours, and 25 for all day, something like that.
Is there anywhere else in town that rents boats like that?
Kevin might rent something, stand up paddleboard.
KOA does.
KOA does too.
Oh yeah, our stand-up paddleboards are also working fine.
Do you feel like there's equipment?
Oh yeah, we never didn't have enough.
Just the kayaks are out of service, just the one double.
Basically.
There is one kayak that the seat wasn't broken and that worked fine, didn't leak or anything. One kayak, the strap that held that secured the seat was kind of dry rotted or something, and torn.
Do you guys, so you get the money from the guests are the renters, and then where does it go after it goes to you?
Nicole brought down a lockbox last year, so we just kept it in that.
Okay.
Along with their keys or ID or something until they brought the boat back.
Okay.
That was in the paperwork.
I'd love to know, just personally, I'd love to know how much money that it brought in for the year and see if it covered the cost of the person renting them.
Mhm.
And then any upkeep of the boats.
Well, did we spend any money fixing boats last year, you remember?
I mean, purchasing, if we needed to buy new kayaks or, you know.
We bought them
10 years ago.
A
Oh, okay.
long time ago. They've been repaired over and over. You can only do so. I mean, it's like a $300 plastic
Sure.
unit, you know what I mean? And when you rent stuff, people treat things like rentals, you know, you drag it across the pavement, and the river's shallow, and then they just wear out. But cheap kayaks are pretty cheap. You know, they probably, if there's enough people to rent them, they probably would take them themselves pretty quickly.
I saw them at Walmart the other day, yeah, quite a selection.
John, do you have a recommendation as to whether we should continue this program or not?
No. You'd have to look at whatever it makes and whatever you pay someone to rent it, and if it's helping, I would say yeah, and if it's not, then it's not.
I think it's a good thing to do, especially if there's not really anywhere else in town to rent boats currently, or some of these types of boats. It's a nice service for the town to provide. And you know where we could get money to buy some new kayaks. There's always money in the banana stand.
Definitely was a daily request.
I would have people when the beach is closed come up to me when I was mowing and stuff and ask me if I could rent boats. Pretty often.
Good to know.
I suppose we could figure out what comparable charges are.
I think that's kind of light on the charge.
I agree, people were surprised.
Yeah,
always
like
that-
25 for a whole day is
Yeah,
dirt.
yeah, for sure. I think,
Well, we can review that, but we gotta get the beach open, all right? So let's try to get this, well, at the next meeting, we'll be able to.
I would be surprised if the boat rental didn't make some sort of profit, whether it's,
especially if you increase the cost a
I
little
mean,
bit.
nothing's been put into it in a very long time.
That's my kind of business strategy. Collect all the money, paid up and now. So thank you. So what we're gonna do next on this, do you think?
Get the money information from Nicole
Okay,
and then discuss the fee structure.
Okay.
And sounds like we have plenty of inventory, right?
well, I think we may want to get some kayaks.
I would,
Single person?
yeah.
Single.
We used to have like 6 probably.
We still have all the paddles from them.
Yeah. We probably have,
So how many empty spots, say, on our rack do we have to fill it?
We used to double stack them on the racks, we had that many.
and we have the rack down there so we have the rack down there that doesn't leave down there, and we have the trailer. So between the two, you can fit like 16 boats.
We only got maybe 8 now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see now,
Are they required to wear life jacket?
Yes.
how's our supply of life jackets then?
We're set, and as far as I'm concerned, we have plenty of sizes and everything.
And you get more and more because people just leave them there every day.
That's very true.
True.
It's never ending supply of life jackets.
Is that what happens?
And shoes.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like forgetting your skis at Whiteface.
That is true.
Okay, so get quotes for some kayaks.
I really don't have a strong opinion about the program one way or the other, but if you're basically think it's working fine and
I have no idea. You just have to look at the map, and the map will tell you if it works.
Well, if it's not causing any issues, you know,
Right.
it's not.
I don't think it's causing an issue. It's a nice thing to offer.
And it probably makes money, then I think it seems like a good thing to do.
The first 2 weeks before we got Brendan there, it was a struggle because they were asking us all day and demanding. So my recommendation would be to get someone as soon as the beach opens as well, because they were asking from day one.
Yeah, and I remember the discussions last year was, you know, there's a real reluctance on the part to, if you have 2 lifeguards down at the beach, have one of them be the boat person too, because there's supposed to be 2 lifeguards.
The boat rental
You already took
person
care of that.
also
If not, we
rates
just
the
ask
beach
John while he's
and
here.
Helps the lifeguard, if the
Yeah.
lifeguard wants
Go ahead
something
and
on
ask him.
stand
I
or
mean,
something.
I think I showed him, but
It just, yeah, I was busy
thank you.
majority of the time.
I had suggested maybe some walkie-talkies for out there. Do you think that would be beneficial?
It could be, I mean, it's not really a huge,
It's a tiny space.
yeah.
It's only like 2 acres.
Yes. Did you take care of that, or can
I
you
haven't
take care
taken
of that?
care of it. It was, so that was before the boards were in. So the river's much lower.
They'll float better now.
The launch is, it's short anyway, and it's not ideal. If we wanted to do something, maybe we just know that we're gonna do it, and then when we take the boards off, we could lower the river to a point where we could just do it.
So the only problem is it's gonna be kind of messed up all summer, so, you know, I don't know, he suggested pavers, and obviously they're not easy to replace in 4 foot of water now or whatever, so maybe we can just get some, you know, crushed stone and kind of, you know, wade out there and dump it along the bottom of the ramp just to appease it for the
That's what I
summer.
said.
Do we have to
The thing with pavers is,
Sometimes it's better off to do it and ask for forgiveness.
totally, for sure with that one. But with pavers, he's complaining that there's a 4-inch drop, and if you put a paver there, you know what I mean? You're gonna still have the drop.
Just if you can do anything, I mean,
We can do
rather than
something.
having somebody else complain, if you can say, hey, I tried the best I can, and at least we can say we looked at it.
Yeah, we can dump some pressure there and
Perfect.
try to make it a little less aggressive.
Thank you.
The other thing for the beach tie is the youth commission tie-in. So what I'd like to see happen is if once we have the beach sort of fully staffed and we're using community enhancement funds to help pay that cost, that frees up within our own budget what we spent last year on the beach from the general fund. And we're going to try to find hopefully a person who wants to be a part-time youth commission director. And that person, based on, and Tina sent this out, and she's right about it because I remember this from my own experience, needs to be a certified lifeguard as well.
That's not what we were told last year by Supervisor Holzer.
Well, that's okay. I'm not Supervisor Holzer.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
I had to lead kids on trips for years into the woods, and anytime water was involved, they wanted us certified as lifeguards. So that is what.
The only thing I'm going to say about that is, like, how have we always done it for youth commission trips when they go to, you know, Speculator to the beach or to Wilmington? I mean,
well, so when the youth commission from Keene shows up to use our beach or Lake Placid's beach, the person who's leading them is also a lifeguard. You know, that's the Department of Health rules. We're leading kids trips with any kind of water. I worked at Camp Treetops for years, and that's exactly why they made us all be lifeguards. Because we were out in the woods, jumping into streams and rivers and stuff like that. And each one of the counselors was a lifeguard as well.
I was at the beach in Lake Placid when a child drowned in the youth commission. It was horrible.
Yeah, I'm saying. So in any case, it would be a benefit if we have people who may be interested here among our applicant pool of being a part-time youth commissioner. a couple of our applicants are certified swim instructors. I'd love to see us getting the kids to come down to the beach, get swimming lessons from our lifeguards and things like that. So it's a function of finding a candidate, and I don't think funds will be that much of an issue because we will have some of the funds from the beach money to help pay for this person.
So is there a workaround, for example, that's, 6 weeks throughout the summer? Can we pay one of the lifeguards just to work with the youth commission that one day? Rather than be a lifeguard, they're working with the youth commission as a lifeguard?
We've talked to a number of them. We haven't asked them that directly. They'll want to follow up with us. What do you think? Do you think among those candidates?
I think there's a possibility, but there were 4 of them who have my opinion was that there are 4 of them that have actual beach lifeguarding experience and 1 that has pool lifeguard experience. So I thought that those 4 that have beach, because a beach and a pool are different beasts and the amount of people that are there. So I thought that might be something to take into consideration when looking at the applicants. But we did not ask them because we didn't know how qualified the rest of the people coming down the pike were going to be for interviews. So we can certainly.
And we all wanted to discuss, getting the beach open 7 days a week and fully staffing it.
That's all fine, but we need to it's June now, and we need to give the youth committee approval to start advertising so they can hire someone. And if they can't do trips with swimming, or if we have to work it some way where there's a lifeguard that goes with them certain days, then that's fine too. But they haven't advertised yet because they haven't been given
It's
the green light
advertised.
from the board.
I thought it's been advertised.
No, we haven't had approval yet to
So can we
advertise.
give them the green light to advertise?
Yes.
Okay.
Are we advertising for 1 or 2 positions? We've asked for 2, so we could up.
How
the
many
number.
kids are coming?
We
10
capped it
last
at
year.
10 because we didn't feel we could have more than 1 chaperone per 10 kids.
How much interest is in it being on the 10?
We had a waiting list last year. And I just had 2 individuals ask me today if we were doing anything. Because they've been getting things from schools and other surrounding town youth commissions. And they would like to have their kids here local, but it's getting late. It's actually way past. Stuff is advertised in March, April. Parents need to plan. School ends in 3 weeks.
And
They need to know where their kids are going.
for 2, the estimate is only $4,400 for 2 counselors, which is in the scheme of the numbers we talk about and what we spend, I think that's very modest.
Are you going for 2 days?
We would like to go for 2 days.
That's the
Which
cost of
weeks?
1 turburator.
July 8th through August 16th were the dates that we had proposed and sent the board.
And 2 days.
2 days, yes. 8 to 4.
I have this on another piece of paper. I just don't have it with me. I'm
Yep,
sorry.
no, that's fine.
And that would be the 4,400.
Approximately, yes.
And we have 14,000 set up for the youth center-ish funds.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's not just for the youth center though,
what's the salary and the CEs?
but I think the lifeguard, some of that comes out of that. Don, do you remember that when you're on the board? Don't the lifeguard come out of that fund too?
The beach is 17,000 with the 2 items, and then the youth center is 14,000.
Part of that's maintenance for the buildings too.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
I
that's
remember
that's
that.
your money separate, the money that you've made. That 14,000 has nothing to do with the money that you guys have made.
But isn't it the same account?
No.
This is the tax dollars
Okay.
Is
in the
the-
general fund of your budget.
It's what's budgeted in our budget every year. It has nothing to do with your money.
It's not the same
It's,
account.
okay. It's just about the same figure, so I was confused.
Does the money they've raised show up on there anywhere?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Because it's not,
Well, I think it's here. I think it's the youth program seat, their CE, 5,062 sound right?
yeah, but that's still our budget. Like what they've made is not on there. That's in an account.
It's in a different account. It's not in,
We wouldn't be on there. Okay.
yeah. I don't think it would be,
It's
no.
a.
No, it's off our balance sheet. You know, it's not our account. It's a town number. It's a
Right.
town signatories, but it's not on the balance sheet.
Right.
So is it, we can give them the green light now to
Yeah.
advertise to hire? Okay.
Yes,
So we can advertise to hire, looking for somebody for 2 days a week.
Lifeguard certified.
Lifeguard preferred.
And if we can't find a certified lifeguard, does that mean we can't?
What we
can't take the kids to the beach?
no, what we were thinking about doing is assigning somebody from our beach staff to be.
Liaison for the day,
Okay,
basically.
'cause that's what we've been told in the past
Yeah.
that we could do
Yeah.
or have. Okay.
Good. I'm glad that,
All right, let's
So
do
you
the
can
fee
advertise.
schedule because I have
okay,
we have a fundraiser I have to go to.
that's the library.
Yes.
Got about it.
Is that the feed the read thing tonight?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it the trout again?
Yeah. I have a reservation.
My printer's broken, but I happen to have 4 extra copies, so, oh, sorry, Don. It's what I had done several months ago. It's the fee schedules of neighboring towns, and
I've got that. You gave it to us back then.
so we have our fee schedules while everyone is reviewing this. Were done in 2010, North Elba 2014, J 2020, Keene 2021. Our fees for building permits are lagging behind pretty significantly, and even just adjusting for inflation since 2010, our fees would go up pretty much as you would think. You know, we've had a lot of inflation in the past several years. So this is another way to try to bring in revenue for the town without raising property taxes. It's not going to be a huge amount, but with a $2 million budget, you know, $2,000 is, you know, we just had a discussion about spending 44, so if we can bring in another 2,000, that would be positive. Ready?
So if we're looking at Doug's suggestions,
I wish Doug was here because I wonder why he picked these numbers.
Very similar to Jay's prices.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's almost exactly.
Got it.
so who are we more like, Jay or North Elba or Keene?
Honestly, I mean, I think it's just something that we shouldn't overthink too much and go with Doug's recommendations for now. And if we have to readjust it in a year, we readjust it in a year.
Actually, they probably should be readjusted every year.
Exactly.
Anybody seeing something in Doug's recommendations that they think is,
Well, the single family home, he's recommending 30 cents. I would say 35. That would be adjusted for inflation from our 2010. You know, none of this is life or death, but that would be my recommendation.
okay. Anything else among Doug's stuff that I mean, I have no objection to that.
Along the same lines, the multifamily,
How many multifamilies do we actually have? Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking of, you know, I mean, if we want to encourage them, we don't want to sock it to them necessarily. You know, in terms of, you
so
know,
equal between the two then, 35 and 35?
that sounds fair to me.
I mean, I think that's why the single family was a little bit less originally, because there's less involved and less review and stuff. And I mean, Jay and Keene, which were both just updated, are only 30. So I think that's why Doug went with that.
Yep.
So we'd be the highest town around for a single family home.
Well, North Elba is higher depending on the square footage. North Elba uses a very complex formula to determine, and the more square footage. If it's 2,000 square feet, it's 40 cents. 5,000, 84 cents.
He's adding in a deck and porch.
He said he's
Or
been
porch.
charging people, but he wasn't. Because there's not an actual line item, but he would want to put a line item.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
I'm okay with that.
The last item on Doug's list, I'm confused where it says septic. Oh, no change. Okay. I was reading it as no charge. Never mind.
I'm sort of, so it looks as like the commercial recommendation is up with Jay's and Keene's. That sounds about right. That's a hefty, again, no, how many commercial building permits are we being asked to review or look over each year? So I guess the question is whether we should, for now, just stick with Doug's single family dwelling at 30. And review. So do we know, Laura, how much the permit fees are and revenues are?
No, I didn't receive any of that information.
So it's not on that
Do
sheet.
you have it on your,
Oh, I'm sorry, in the
time I
budget. I
give
thought I
you
had
a-
it on here. I'm sorry. Yes, it's right here.
well, you also have it on the reports I give you every month.
I don't have that with me. This one I just grabbed from my mailbox the other day.
Last year was an exceptionally large amount because of KOA doing all that work. That was on that yearly one I gave you in January.
Yep.
And that was a lot. It won't be that every year.
No, this is the.
Okay.
He doesn't have demolitions on here. Speaking of which, our fee is currently 50, adjusted for inflation, that's 71. Keene and J, 50, 100 for commercial. Or whatever that's worth.
I don't know that I've seen a fee difference with commercial and the other, but yet, yes, I have KOA, some of them were 100 for the demolition.
I'm fine if we match Keene and Jay with that. And then Tim just says, so we can put this behind us. It's like, I don't care whether it's 30 or 35 ultimately, but why don't we just, you're big about getting some fee because there's a certain amount of time. So why don't we go with like a Keene recommendation where there's a building permit fee, application fee for like $40 every time. So even if, it's 150 square feet, it's 35 cents a square, 25 cents a square foot plus a $40 fee. And that's going to make up the difference.
I
That
can
sounds
let you
good.
those numbers out tomorrow if you want.
No, it's okay.
That sounds good.
You got that, Favor?
Yep.
You got it all wrote down? Perfect.
Wrote down? We got a clerk here taking care of it.
We're also recorded.
We're recorded. So yeah, so we're gonna charge it, application fee.
18, sorry, go ahead.
No, please, you found it.
Special use permits, is that what we're looking at, or the planning board?
No,
Building permit
neither
application
one.
fee, we're just gonna add a fee to every single building permit and keep it as Doug's recommendations.
Your number that you were looking for, I'm sorry, I'm just looking for what its title is, I'm sorry.
No, that's it.
They're all listed separate, alterations, builds.
I don't think I have them. Good, but I don't.
So I understand, very simple rule, got it. I can even remember that.
What did you decide you were gonna do?
while you're looking for that,
General fee.
We're
$40 like Keen.
Yeah, the $40 general permit application fee. And then we will be guided by Doug's recommendations in the thing.
And
Side
then
note, I
the
did
other
find-
change was
And
demolitions
Yeah.
to match J and Keen.
so going to $100 for commercial, and 50 for residential.
On a side note, I found the boat rental income was $1,870.
Excellent.
Could you write down what you changed? So I can copy it.
That won't probably cover the cost of the attendant, but we've always had an attendant at the beach anyway, so offsetting it a little is good. Maybe we haven't always, but
We can buy some
years
boats
ago
with
we
that
did
money.
it.
Building permit for 2023, year to date was $26,058 at the end of the year.
That's pretty good.
Yep.
So if we increase it by 10%.
That's helpful. Yeah. In the same vein, the planning board fees. We also need to look at them at some point, and I do have now, we are potentially losing money on the planning board. We've got, I think 1,700 in fees from applicants, 1,445 in fees for applicants last year for people going before the planning board. And the expenses were 3,300, and that's for the materials, postage, the planning board secretary's wages. That does not factor in Doug's salary. So it looks like, I mean, just really quick, straightforward math, we would look at doubling those fees. And if we double those fees, it would get us closer to breaking even.
Do you have a comparables with other towns? Like what
I do
you did
not,
for the
no, I
building?
just got this today.
Okay, maybe we should look at that. Okay.
So we move forward. Do we need to make a resolution to change these fees?
Jen Briggs
Probably
says we can't, we have to have the local law hearing.
Not for
To
fees.
change fees?
That's what Jen Briggs said. This is a
No.
little joke.
All right, so yeah, we have 4. If you don't mind, I'll make the motion to accept the fee amendments effective immediately.
I'll second it.
Darren, second. Any discussion?
Just doing exactly what Doug recommends, plus the $40 flat application fee.
Plus the demolition stuff you mentioned. Yes, that's what we've agreed to.
Love it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, public comment, please.
Just a couple of questions about the youth program. Is the town, I mean, in the past, the town advertised the position because it's a town position. Is that going to be the case this year, or?
Well, I was a bit confused by the way the conversation was sort of going, which is, it sounded to me like you were going to advertise for that position.
People are asking is.
Well, then have them contact us.
And they wrote the advertisement and the town helped promote the advertisement.
Well,
They
that's-
advertised.
That's fine. I just, I
Well,
don't.
we all received it from Amy. We kind of already have it wrote. That's why I was confused. I thought it was already being advertised because we all received it in our emails from Amy.
They
Okay.
didn't feel they had the
We
town
didn't
board.
have approval, yeah.
So-
We didn't want to advertise without having approval.
Well, we're here, so we approve.
So will the town advertise this position now?
Sure.
With the posting that Amy supplied?
So,
Do you guys advertise on your Facebook page too?
We share what the town has on the Facebook. That's what we did last year.
You'd share the website from the town?
What's that?
You'd share what we have on the town website, is that what you're saying?
It wasn't on the town website, it was on the Town of Wilmington Facebook page. And then
No,
we
you had
shared
it on
it.
the, you had it on the website too.
Did
I
we?
put it on for Amy,
Okay.
so I'll need a copy of that if you want it back on this year.
I'll resend it.
And one last thing before we go, favor, can, any update on our website through Roost on why it's not even, why you can't even click anything and have it load? It doesn't even work.
It is.
John, did you put a call in today?
I didn't have time after I got off the
Okay.
phone with Mike.
Yeah.
Mike gave me a whole bunch of things to send to Jason,
Yeah, I'd like
tell
to,
him to look certain places, and he said Jason should, and his crew should be able to fix it with the information. We'll see.
yeah, well, it's a disaster, and I have not had anything further from the roof people.
Yeah, because you can't even like click on like a department and get a
No.
phone number from it.
Occasionally I can get on your website, on the clerk's website,
Okay.
because that's where all the public postings are.
Yep.
But, I mean,
But
I
not
have so
today.
many,
You can't today. I was trying to see where to put postings.
Yeah, it's,
You
it's,
get a 504 error.
you know, like if you get a high traffic website, you know, it'll crash, but this is not a high traffic website. They're just, there's
wait,
no,
are you kidding? This is the town of Wilmington.
yeah.
Yeah.
We get
There's
more
no-
eyeballs
Mike
than
says
anybody.
they've got links messed up or something.
Oh, yeah.
He told me what to tell him where it was happening today. I'm gonna do that tomorrow.
She's
And
actually
that
gonna
it
call
should
the
be
guy,
able-
Mike gave her the contact with the guy who actually fixes it, whereas I've been going through the regular slow channels. Yeah, I know we're sort of held hostage. I've been sort of a fan of hiring our own, getting our own website design and contract going so that we can actually show something that's worthwhile or make changes to it. Or
When
have
I
some,
say Mike, that's our IT guy. For anybody that doesn't know.
Here?
so in any case, no, Darren, I have nothing.
All right.
I did ask, one person asked, they wanted to see if there was video of the last meeting. So I've been checking for this
I
person.
haven't gotten it up
Okay.
because I was
But that's-
gone for
that's,
a week
no
and
problem.
closing out tax.
No problem. It's okay. Just was wondering if that was related.
No, it's not. It's not related at all.
No.
The STR purpose section, do you think it's worth having Schechner look at that and see if, okay,
I'm confident it's okay.
okay.
Yeah, no, I think we'll be all set for the public hearing. 6:30, June 11th.
Finally, someone took their name off of the list of applicants for the zoning board? Is that, that's something you said at the last meeting, that someone who had been interested? Who is that?
Mindy, our secretary,
Doesn't want to be.
doesn't want to be on the board.
Okay. And I guess, what is our plan as far as that? Do we have, we'll revisit that after the STR law is adopted?
No, I mean, it doesn't have to. I think if we have enough people who are interested, we can first start the process to get that zoning board of appeals resuscitated through the local law. So there was a local law that was passed, in 2000, whatever, 17, which eliminated the zoning board of appeals. And now, so we just need to just change that and get it back together. And we could do that anyway. And then populate, and then have the people see that on it, because it would be duly done.
And the code is still divided.
Yes,
It's still zoning and planning.
it's written as if
Separate.
there's separate.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, no,
we
we
would
don't
need to
actually-
adjust the code.
it's whatever the local law said. I'll send you copies of that one, so you can read it over.
Do we know if there's any members of the planning board who are interested? Because we're operating under the belief that the people who are currently on the joint board are going to be on the planning board, and members can move to the zoning board if they want, and the people who we interviewed a few weeks ago will be on the zoning board. Do we know if anyone is interested in moving from the planning board to the zoning board? Does that all make sense? to
No,
everyone?
no,
I don't think we've had that discussion yet because we haven't really even decided how big our boards are going to be.
Tim mentioned it at the zoning and planning board at the end of it, just to put it in their minds.
Oh, good.
The members of the
Good.
board.
No, I mean, I talked to somebody at the beginning of the year. I said, would you be interested in moving? I'll do whatever you like. But I mean, it's sort of, if they're interested in it, we've laid it out there, let them, they could talk to us about it. I don't want to tell,
No.
say, yeah, you look like a good zoning board of appeals person.
Yeah.
You don't want to be here anymore. Okay, so, thank you very much. Motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make this.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Here's some money.
I think mine.
Because I wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you all for coming.
Where I
This
Didn't get
conference
you the
will
last
now
one,
be
you know,